If there's a car company that knows how to make hatchbacks, it's Peugeot. The French firm has been making small, lightweight and really easy to drive hatches for a long time now, and it's finally made a brand new one. It's the 308. It's a car that's got loads of technological features, a really cool list of engines and a very exciting exterior design. But if you're channeling down that journey into a crossover and you're already thinking that a high-riding model is for me, then why should you pick a traditional hatchback like the 308? Well, in our review today, we're going to find out. It's fair to say that Peugeot has stepped things up a notch with the styling of the 308. It's got its brand new badging at the front, and it's got those really cool claw lights which look both great in the day and really striking at night too. It's actually quite a long looking car from side on as well, but this car in particular with its red exterior paint is very exciting to look at and really cool overall. The interior of the 308 is a far more technology-rich affair than it was before. We've got a screen ahead of us and a quite cool dual screen setup in the middle. Now you've still got some nice shortcut switches for the heating, ventilation and things like the heated screen. But you've also got this sidebar down here which gives you quick access to functions like your phone or Apple CarPlay, which is included in this car. Elsewhere we've got some nice little storage bits down the middle and some reasonably sized door bins down the side. However, Peugeot is still committed to this iCockpit tiny steering wheel setup that it has been for a little while now, and I just can't get along with it. I like to sit low in the car and I usually have the steering wheel up about there, but if I do that in this car I can't see the dials, and now if I have it lower enough to see the dials I feel like I'm driving with my hands too far down. I just really wish that would change because I don't understand it, though it might be different for you because this is quite a personal aspect, and if you're a different size person you might find it to be spot on. So make sure you have a drive of one first to see how you cope with it. There's only so much space you can expect from a car like the 308, but actually it's not too bad. Now I'm just under 6 foot, the driving seat is in my position and my knees are a little bit squashed, but I've got plenty of room for my feet, which is good. Headroom actually is pretty good too, but if you are going to have a taller driver sat ahead of you, then you feel a little bit squashed back here. The person in the middle is going to be a little bit short on space too. You do have ISOFIX points on the two exterior seats, and mounting them isn't going to be too tricky because those rear doors do actually open a decent amount. For older kids, however, you've got two USB-C charging points here, so you're able to top up your devices, and there's some neat little storage bits down the side. As with a car at this particular price point, some of the plastics inside the 308 are a little bit scratchy, but they're harder wearing, so they're going to stand up to more abuse. It's not quite as premium feeling in the back here, nor is it quite spacious as in a car like a Volkswagen Golf, but I think for most people it's going to be just on the money. Though the rear seat space in the 308 might be a little bit tight, it makes up for that with a good amount of boot space. Now at 412 litres, there's a decent amount of room in here, and it's more than you'd get from many of the 308's key rivals. Excluding cars like the Skoda Octavia, that has a huge boot in comparison and will be the best choice if you're out for outright capacity. But there's a reasonably sized lip, so you are going to have to lift things up and in, particularly heavier items, which is going to prove a bit of a task. But you've got a nice netted area for the side for loose items, and it's nice and square too, which means that you're going to be able to get those wide items in here pretty easily. You can of course fold down the rear seats, which expands that boot space even further. So even though it's a bit tight in the back, you do get a bigger boot as a result. Peugeot offers the 308 with a variety of different engines. You can get it with a diesel, you can get it with a new plug-in hybrid, and of course you can get it as an SW estate too. So there's plenty of choice when it comes to what kind of layout you want in this car. This one in particular, today we've got is a 1.2 litre turbocharged petrol engine going through an 8-speed automatic gearbox. Now you get about 130 brake horsepower and you should get just over 54 mpg combined. So when it comes to efficiency, this car is really, really good. And actually it narrows the gap between choosing a petrol or choosing a diesel, because for most people, unless you're doing really long journeys all of the time, then a petrol is still the better choice. Diesels historically just prefer to run at high speeds for longer periods of time. So if you're only doing shorter journeys, a petrol is still the best choice because a diesel can't get up to temperature, can't get up to its most efficient state quickly enough over a short period, so you're better off just going for petrol. There isn't too much of a drawback in terms of flexibility either, though I would say that this petrol engine just sounds quite gravelly when you're accelerating. At low speeds it sounds quite chunky actually. It picks up really nicely, but it just feels like quite a lot of that engine noise is coming through into the cabin. However, when you settle down, you're not accelerating quite so hard, it is a bit quieter. You're getting a little bit of wind noise from the pillars and the wing mirrors, but it's actually quite hushed. And one thing that I will say that I really like about the 308 is the ride quality. I'm finding it really comfortable to live with. It does get unsettled by some of those larger potholes, but I think for the most part it does very well. I still just can't get around this iCockpit system, this steering wheel, because so right now I'm sat in my usual driving position. I've had to lower the steering wheel as much as I can, and I still can't properly see the dials. And if I lifted it up, I wouldn't be able to see any of the dials. So I really don't understand what the mentality is behind that. I get that when they launched the iCockpit system to begin with, the smaller wheel was meant to make the car feel more agile and more alert and more like a little kind of go-kart sort of thing. But you don't want that from this car. You want it to be easy to get along with, and I find that not very easy to get along with. The rest of the controls are pretty straightforward and really easy to access, and even the multifunction steering wheel controls are really pleasant to use, and actually even the multifunction steering wheel buttons I find very pleasant. The 308 definitely doesn't follow the historical Peugeot stereotype of being a little bit soft and a little bit wallowy. It corners in a relatively pleasant manner. There's not too much wash, there's not too much of your head getting thrown around. I think it's perfectly usable for day to day. Doesn't feel overly sharp, nor just too wallowy. It's just something that you don't want really. As I've said, the ride quality is pretty decent, but it's still backed up by a decent amount of body control, so it doesn't feel untethered or just loose, which is what old Peugeots sometimes felt like. Certainly I think that despite being a relatively small capacity petrol engine, and being a little bit loud at slow speeds and when you're accelerating, I think this does really well to be quite useful on long journeys too. As you can see, we're kind of bowling along at 70 miles an hour now, and the only real noise that you're getting is from the pillars. There's no engine noise coming through, and there's very little tyre noise coming through as well. That means that this car is going to be just as comfortable for longer journeys as it is short trips around town. And that's traditionally where the best bit of a hatchback lies in its all-around ability. It can do long distances, it can do short distances, it can do it all relatively comfortably and without too much fuss, and I think the 308 does that incredibly well. Compared to something like a Volkswagen Golf, no, it's not quite as sporty or as sharp to drive, but I don't think it trades off too much in other areas. I think this is probably more comfortable than a Golf, I will say. I like the Peugeot 308. I like that it's got a little bit more character than some of its rivals. I like the way it looks, and I like the way that it drives too. I think it's comfortable and refined, and also it's got a good range of engines, so there's something to appeal to everyone. I just wish there was a little bit more space in the back, particularly headroom. However, having said that, if you are just planning on putting child seats in the back there, and you want a little bit more boot space, then this could prove to be the ideal combination for you. There are so many rivals on sale today as well that there are loads of different options to choose from if this car isn't quite right, and there are plenty to check out on Motors.co.uk today as well too. Thank you for watching this new car review on the Peugeot 308. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, please leave us a like below and let us know in the comments section what you think of the 308. Do you like the way it looks, or is it too out there for you? And since you're here, please remember to subscribe to the Motors.co.uk YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you're notified every time we upload a new review.